In 1896, moving pictures flickered to life inside a Mumbai hotel. For the audience watching the Lumiere brothers' short films, it looked like pure magic. At the time, India was under British rule, and cinema was a foreign curiosity, an imported marvel that few expected to take root in local soil. 15 years later, a man named Dada Saheb Phalke sat in a theater watching a foreign film called The Life of Christ. Seeing that story unfold on screen sparked a specific, frustrated question. Why are we watching their stories? Why can't we make films about our own gods and our own history? Answering that question required a near-obsessive level of commitment. Phalke quit his job. He took on crippling debt. He even sold his wife's jewelry just to afford basic camera equipment from London. He was pouring his life savings into unproven technology. This effort was driven by a desperate, expensive need for cultural representation, seeking to put Indian faces and legends on screen for the first time. That obsession culminated in 1913 with Raja Harishchandra, India's first full-length feature film. Production was difficult. Phalke put ads in newspapers looking for actors, but societal norms were so strict that women refused to participate, forcing him to cast men in the female roles. And making the film was only half the battle. There were no multiplexes or distribution networks. Phalke had to physically haul his reels, projector, and screen across the country, often loading heavy equipment onto a simple bullock cart to reach remote villages. After setting up the screen and running the projector himself, he would head back home, carrying his earnings in a simple burlap sack full of heavy coins. How did a solitary man with a wooden cart and a sack of coins provide the blueprint for the massive global industry we see today? For the first 2 decades, Indian cinema remained completely silent. Filmmakers relied heavily on deeply familiar mythological epics like the Ramayana and Mahabharata to keep audiences engaged without spoken words. Then, in 1931, a film called Alam Ara hit the theaters. It was India's first talkie. Suddenly, audiences could actually hear the voices of the people on screen. But Indian filmmakers didn't just copy the Hollywood model of adding spoken dialogue. Instead, they integrated music, singing, and highly elaborate choreography, making epic songs a defining element of the local format. Adding sound modernized the technology, and by weaving in music, directors created a cinematic language that audiences of all backgrounds instantly adopted. As India fought for independence in the 1930s and 40s, filmmakers faced severe British censorship. To bypass this, directors began threading patriotism into their movies, using subtle allegories and historical symbols. After independence, the industry entered a golden age. Movie releases became massive cultural events where filmmakers tackled severe realities like poverty, caste discrimination, and the rights of women. Legendary figures like Raj Kapoor, Guru Dutt, and Dilip Kumar stepped into the spotlight. They played characters that mirrored the average Indian citizen, hopeful, flawed, and struggling to navigate a newly independent nation. The cinema hall functioned as a public processing center, where a new country confronted its collective trauma and debated its hopes for the future. By the 1970s, audience connection turned into fanatical worship. Rajesh Khanna emerged as the country's first true superstar, triggering absolute hysteria. Fans would write him letters in their own blood. But Khanna's soft romantic image was soon overtaken by a completely different energy, Amitabh Bachchan and his angry young man persona. Bachchan's explosive on-screen rage was a direct response to the real-world socio-economic crisis of the 1970s. India was dealing with mass unemployment and systemic injustice. When Bachchan fought a corrupt system on the movie screen, he gave a voice to the country's youth rage. To satisfy this enormous, complex audience, studios created the masala formula, packing action, romance, comedy, and family drama into a single film to appeal to every demographic at once. Following economic liberalization in the 1990s, the mood shifted again. Stars like Shah Rukh, Salman, and Aamir Khan took over. Films like DDJL focused on wealthy, aspirational, globe-trotting Indian families. The cinematic hero mapped the country's psychological evolution, moving from a struggling rural peasant to a furious unemployed youth to a wealthy global citizen. Entering the 2000s, digital cameras and heavy visual effects took over. Single-screen village theaters were replaced by massive multiplexes. Then came high-speed internet. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Prime, and Geo Hotstar untethered movies from physical theaters, putting them directly into the palm of the viewer's hand. Today, the industry is split. Theaters are dominated by giant pan-India VFX spectacles, while streaming platforms host grounded, realistic stories that find success without relying on a traditional box office. This digital shift has forced a major correction. Raw star power and generic formulas no longer guarantee a hit. The audience has ultimate choice, meaning the story has become the primary authority. We've gone from a lone man dragging a projector on a wooden bullet cart to an industry producing blockbusters for a global audience. This entire ecosystem exists because one man was willing to sell his wife's jewelry to chase a seemingly impossible dream. The trajectory of Hindi cinema reflects the spirit of India itself, a persistent, unyielding effort to project a unique identity onto the world stage.